and I was going crazy. I got cleared, all that, and then I'm gonna say within like 3 to 4 weeks, I re-snapped it again, the same side.
No.
And I was just sitting there crying, like so pissed off, like why am I going through all this pain? Like all I'm doing is working hard, I'm doing things right. And so for me, like when that had happened, I was, like I said, sophomore year, and I was about halfway through college. And I said earlier, I had about a 2.73 GPA cumulative, and I was like, I was depressed. Dude, my coach was trying to push me out of the school. He was like, you should consider transferring because you're not going to play here.
Really?
Yeah, he told me, he said, I can promise you, we're not play a single down here at the University of Washington.
So I'm here today with Michael Neal. He's a former UW football player. What position you play?
Tight end.
Tight end.
Yep.
And big tight end out here. But Michael and I first met at the Pac-12 SALT conference, which stands for Student Athlete Leadership Team. And we were actually roommates, both being the representatives of the student athletes of our respective institutions. Were you nervous in that room? Every AD in the Pac-12 in there?
I wasn't nervous at all, man.
Really?
Honestly, yeah, dude, because I don't know. I got some backbone, man. When I feel like I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't speak up for everybody I know that's complaining about the same thing. Like I said, I came in there saying I'm the voice of everybody at my institution, and I'm also with these other people who may be feeling the same thing. Maybe they don't want to talk about it, but I'm for sure going to talk about it. And that's the thing, too, is like I was just like, we are literally the one person of each Pac-12 school represented. So we all have our different strengths and weaknesses. We all have our different passions. So why not talk about my own thing? Why not talk about why I'm unique? Like show why I'm unique. So yeah.
Well, we're definitely going to get into all of that.
Yeah.
But where are you from, man?
From Southern California, born in the LA. But I'm really from Fontana, California.
Okay.
It's like 45 to an hour northeast of LA. So,
cool.
suburbs.
And so what was life like growing up for you?
For me, so I have, at the time I had one brother and two sisters. Now I have two brothers, two sisters. But for me, I was really just a knucklehead, man. Like, not getting in trouble, like, super, like, bad things over the top, but just things like in high school, I'll be on my phone after hours or having social media. My parents didn't want us having social media. So I'd always get my phone taken away, man. It's some dumb stuff. But for me, I was really just like always a hard worker. I can say that. I was always a hard worker, always super competitive. Did not care about school all my life. I did not care about school whatsoever. I would last time I had good grades until I got into college was elementary school, and I had like some like 3 A's, 3 B's, and my parents were like taken away. But
Really?
But for my brother, my younger brother, who's playing UNLV football right now. He would always get good grades, so it's expected. But for me, when I did even like semi good, they'd be like, "Oh, there you go, good job," like whatever. But yeah, dude, growing up, I was a knucklehead, wasn't trying in school, and then I just kept getting in trouble.
How different was life for you at UW compared to where you grew up?
I guess the one thing you could say is it was definitely less diverse, especially because I'm in Seattle. I'm at a what you call PWI, predominantly white institute, being at UW and seeing a whole bunch of like people who are from like out of the country, all just like sitting around your classroom, speaking different languages and talking about things I have never heard of before in my life. And it was definitely getting out of my comfort zone, man. Just kind of touching up, like I said, high school for me, I wasn't trying in school, so I actually graduated high school with a 2.96 GPA. And in football, all you need is a 2.5 to be eligible, right? And funny enough, I took the SAT. I didn't even study for it because I was like, oh, I have a good enough GPA, so no matter what my scores, I'll do good. So I got like a 1250, which is like isn't good, but I was like, I'm gonna get in, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But anyways, I got to college and I found out like UW's a really good school. I didn't know jack about UW, dude. I just knew, I got a scholarship to UW, cool, whatever. Once I found out more, I'm like, oh, this is like a really good university. I was like, what the heck? And then I found out the requirements to get in. You need like a 3.8 GPA to be considered competitive. And I'm like, so I got in here with a 2.9 and people are sitting around me all had 3.8s or above. And so I'm like, yeah, I can't succeed here.
How'd that make you feel?
Dude, for me, I was just like, I think I um, not overhyped, but I guess I just like made it harder than what it was. I like said like, oh man, it's so complicated when it's just okay, you just gotta apply yourself more. So like in classroom, I'd be in the back of the class with some of my teammates, just messing around on my phone, looking at girls walk by, making comments, like just doing dumb stuff, stuff that you hear about the stereotypical athlete doing. And I was playing right into that stereotype. So yeah, for me in school, my grades were like crap. They were
Uh-huh.
crap. I had up until halfway through my sophomore year, I had a 2.73 cumulative GPA, and I was just barely staying eligible to play.
So, how did you start playing football?
How did I start playing?
Yeah.
I started playing football in high school. Oh, actually, no, in middle school.
I was about to say high school's pretty late.
I started playing tackle football in high school,
Okay.
freshman year. But I started playing in general in middle school. Like the Nerf football, just throw it around the playground, whatever, me and my friends. So I literally only got into football because one of my good friends who I kind of looked up to, I thought, oh man, he's super athletic, he's cool. He plays football, I want to play too. I ended up just joining the football team with him, and then I ended up being like really good before we put pads on. When we were like throwing the ball around, I was catching one-handers, all this like crazy catches.
Really?
Yeah, the first day we put pads on, I like tried to do a crazy catch going across the middle and got hit in the stomach. And I said, ooh, I was like, I don't want to play football. I'm not trying to play football, dude. Like that's when I was like, okay, this is how the sport's really played, right? So it was really always me growing. I'd say I'm a late bloomer with football for sure.
So what kept you coming back to the sport after you took that big hit?
Honestly, being around my friends, I just grew to kind of love it, and you get used to it, right? I just learned not to like catch a ball and have my whole body exposed to get smacked like that, but more to catch it and then brace for a hit if you're about to go across the middle and someone's right there. So I always learned through like trial and errors, stuff like that. But honestly, man, like, and now that I'm thinking about it, since we're like going that far back, I was doubted a lot. People were talking crap about me all the time.
Really?
They were just like, man, like he's soft. Like, dude, just don't play or don't play receiver, play defensive end, whatever. Like you don't have hands, this, that, and the third. And I was just like determined to like prove them wrong. So I was like, nah, man, I could do this. Like even when everybody around me was saying, nah, dude, you should just stop playing or go play a different position. I'm like, nah, I know I can do this.
Really?
So, yeah. So I literally, dude, like my work ethic is like what I would consider to be unorthodox, dude. Like I trained as if I was an All-American, and all it took was for me to get around the right people. So, I got in with a professional or a personal trainer with this sport or this group called Rare Breed. Dude got me right. After my junior year, I was doing that training all summer. Dude, I got so much better and came back, and then that's when I got my offer from UW. And fun fact, I actually only had one offer. It was the UW, man.
That's all you need, though.
It really is. Yeah, it's crazy.
That summer when you started training,
Uh-huh.
trying to prove everyone wrong,
Mhm.
what were you thinking about during your workouts to push through the pain?
I was thinking about that I'm meant to do great things in this world. And at the time, I was thinking that great thing was only through football. And so I'm like, I'm not going to be average. I refuse to. Like, I'm not going to leave this planet and just be your average Joe who just walked around doing whatever, and just got by. Like, I want to be like part of like people who are like up there in the 1%ers and stuff like that.
So you struggled with school your whole life, didn't care.
Yeah.
At what point did you start caring in college?
Just to kind of backtrack that a little bit, I was getting injured, dude.
Really?
Yeah, like like I said, I'm a workhorse. My mom told me there's two types of people. There's a workhorse and there's thoroughbreds. Thoroughbreds are people who are naturally gifted, and then workhorse are people who have to work for everything they get. So I had to create my own success. I don't just have this natural talent. Only thing I guess would be natural talent is my work ethic. And so for me, coming in there, I was always working my butt off doing extras. And my coach, when he had first redshirted me, like, all right, bet I'm just gonna get bigger, stronger, work on certain things, come back, play. Next year, I broke my ankle in practice, non-contact, broke my ankle. And apparently it was from a lack of calcium. And because there's no sun out here, so that kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And then I got back recovered, and I was going crazy. I got cleared, all that, and then I'm gonna say within like 3 to 4 weeks, I re-snapped it again, the same side.
No.
And I was just sitting there crying, like so pissed off, like why am I going through all this pain? Like all I'm doing is working hard, I'm doing things right. And so for me, like when that had happened, I was, like I said, sophomore year, and I was about halfway through college. And I said earlier, I had about a 2.73 GPA cumulative, and I was like, I was depressed, dude. My coach was trying to push me out of the school. He was like, you should consider transferring because you're not going to play here. You're not,
Really?
yeah, he told me, he said, I can promise you, you will not play a single down here at the University of Washington.
No way.
And so he said, you should just leave because they can't literally take your scholarship anymore, but they can like try to mentally get you to where they make you leave, like you don't want to be there. So I was going to do that thing the whole time. Bro.
Wait, walk me through that day.
Yeah.
When he said that to you.
I was on a scooter with my foot in a little boot thing.
Is this winter time? Fall?
I can't recall when it was, but it was 2 years ago though too.
Okay.
But I had probably been out of surgery for like a week or two.
Yeah.
And he told me he wanted to meet with me, and so I went to my coach's office, and we were just talking, and I already know he's gonna say some BS because he's like, "Oh yeah, he has a family." I'm like, "Dude, like, what are you trying to say? Like, you don't
It's like you don't care about my family,
you
man.
do not care. It's just this must be some kind of like technique they taught you in school or something."
Uh-huh.
But he's like, "Yeah, man, I really think you should consider transferring because you're not gonna play. You're a single down at the University of Washington. The way like right now, you're not gonna play."
Head coach?
No, this is my position coach.
Okay.
And so,
and this is your second year, so you redshirt your first year.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "Here, get strong. Here's a red shirt.
Yeah.
We're gonna play you," and then you get injured,
mm-hmm.
and then they're like, "No hope, no faith anymore."
Yeah, bro. And the thing is, I was already down because I re-snapped it, and so I was already in a bad place. So he just added to it, and so I went back and I was just bawling, dude. Like crying to my mom, and I was hurt, bro. It's kind of hard. I hate thinking back to all that stuff, but I think it's something I gotta remind myself of sometimes. Like whenever I'm like in a situation, like, bro, you went through all this stuff. That's why you've been able to do all these things. But when that happened, I had a sort of a self kind of like a self eval, looking at myself and like how I've been doing things up to that point, and I was like, man, what's wrong with me? Like, I have a full ride scholarship at one of the top universities in the country, and I'm just pissing away my scholarship. I said, like, what am I doing? Like, and I just started looking at everything like holistically, and I'm like, I need to take advantage of this. And I was like, and I was telling myself at first, like speaking negative thoughts, I'm like, oh, dude, you never studied a day in your life. Like, you don't know how to study, you don't know what studying looks like, you don't know what it takes to be a effective studier. And I just said, you know what, my mom always said I'm a workhorse, and I'm always been someone that works hard, and I just put all that energy into football. So I'm like, why don't I put that into my schooling? And so, but also, I also knew that was the thing that people did was they would be like, football's not working out or whatever sport's not working out, so I'm gonna just put it all into school. No, I said I'm gonna give my all in football still, even though my coach said whatever, and I'm gonna also give my all in football or in school, because I want to be two-dimensional, not one-dimensional. I want to be versatile. I don't want to just be stereotypical this, and this. And that's what kind of got me so far. Is like I always try to push the envelope more and like push myself to see what else I can do. So that actually all that pain I went through actually ended up helping me, dude. So yeah, bro, like that. And then there's also another example when I was taking the accounting class, and I hadn't done math since high school, and I was a junior at that point. And it was funny, like we have about 3 quizzes and 2 tests, the midterm and the final. And my first 2 quizzes I had got like a basically I was getting like 50s and 40s and stuff like that. And I was like, dang, like, but I was like being optimistic, right? Switching it up, whatever I had to do to like switch it up. And then my friends, my academic advisor, all of them were saying, you should consider SNS in the class. So like, you know what SNS is, or
no?
So it's like basically
it's like
if you have
pass, no pass.
It's basically, so if you have at least a 2.0, you can write that class off, but it won't count for anything.
Okay.
But it drops the class, so it doesn't affect your GPA.
Yeah.
And they're saying I should do that, and I've never SNS before in my life. And I guess this is my philosophy. If I start something, I'm gonna finish it. Period. I don't start and then stop. If I started doing it, I'm gonna go through to the end. Wow. So because I don't give up on things. So
everyone's doubting you again.
They were do that. Well, not doubt. It was just like they were on some like, based on the trend and how this works for everybody else, you should consider doing. I would strongly recommend you doing this. I'm like, nah, bro. I started. I'm gonna finish it. Period. I don't care. Mm-hmm. So I just said I just gotta work harder, get more help from the teacher, whatever. Go to office hours. Came in my 3rd quiz. I got one of the highest grades. I got like a 93 or something like that. And then on my midterm and my final, I got above the class average. So I ended up finishing with a 3.1 when I should have finished with a 1.3. So just because me being persistent and telling myself I could do that, being positive, give myself positive affirmations instead of telling myself, well, I can't do something. That's the biggest thing I learned about this whole system. It's not about if you're smart enough. It's about if you believe you can do it.
Wow.
It does not matter. Like this whole, you need a 3.8 GPA to be able to, because we feel like these students are the ones that are going to succeed. No, that's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about your mindset, bro. And that stuff is so like corny to me, but at the same time, it really isn't, because once I did it for myself, it really works. And like, I'd have these good ass grades, and she's like, dang, like, because usually you have to meet with your academic advisor like once or twice a week or whatever. Yeah. It got to a point where she didn't even meet with me. I just went in there to talk to her or get her advice about something, just chop it up. That's it. But it's because I built that relationship and I built that sort of trust. Because in football, we're required to meet with our academic advisor, but they saw I was on top of my stuff. Like I didn't need someone to tell me what to do. It's like I held my own self accountable to do what I said I was going to do.
Why did they make you meet with your academic advisor in football?
Because, bro, like, it's a stereotype, and actually they play into the stereotype a lot of times. Is like they don't try in school. They're, like I said, playing in the back of the classroom on their phone, not taking stuff serious. And I'm not part of that. Like, they have a track record of that, but I'm like, I'm not gonna be like that. I was, but I said I'm gonna change this. Like, I put this thing on my back, this not burden, but responsibility on myself to say, I'm going to change this narrative no matter what it takes. I'm not going to let every time you look at a black student athlete or student athlete in general, you think, oh, yeah, they're just going to, I didn't get my part of the project done. Can you just do it? I'll pay you to write my paper. Like, nah, I'm going to do my stuff, and I'm not only going to get it done, but I'm going to do it in a way that's like, oh, this dude's about his business. And I'll tell you this, too. I was in a marketing class, right? It's my first time being in our business building. And I walk in, and we're, sitting there, I'm trying to learn everything, whatever. And we had to get into groups. And I could tell at first when I was in my group, the way we were talking, they weren't taking me very serious. They were on some like, yeah, okay, right. And
because
then,
you were an athlete.
Yeah. And they, they think they have this like whole like subconscious belief, like, oh yeah, athlete, he's not going to do his job. He's not going to do his job. Or someone's going to have to pick up the slack for him. And for me, it's like we ended up having that group. And I was literally following up with everybody. I was getting stuff done like way before they said we wanted to get done by. I would double, triple check my work. I checked their work out too. And I wasn't like being bossy, but I was just holding people accountable in a way where it's like, oh, this dude really is trying. Like, he really wants us to do good in this class. And I always had a good rapport with everybody else in my classroom. And the thing that stuck out to me was when I had taken my next business class that next quarter, someone that had a class with me that quarter before came up to me and said, hey, which I'd love to study with you because you're on your shit. And that to me meant the world, because it was a regular student telling me that. And I said, the energy I'm putting out, they're receiving. So what I'm trying to get done and what I'm trying to communicate, I'm actually doing that through like my work and like how I carry myself. So that's what my whole mission was at the school too.
How did it feel when you met with that first group and they weren't taking you serious?
I was like, chip on my shoulder. I can't stop someone from feeling the way they currently feel, but I can change that over time based on my actions. So that's just kind of how I went about it, man. And I'm just so blessed that I've been able to kind of do that and give people a different outlook on student athletes, at least too. And funny enough too, I actually I was the honor student for my communications department. I was in a cohort of 6 people. So, and me also being the only student athlete and the only black student athlete as well, to write a honors thesis paper for the department. So I did all that stuff, man, and it was great.
How would you describe the experience of a black student athlete on a predominantly white campus?
I think
especially in a sport like football, which is probably football and basketball, the most stereotyped sport of all of them.
It's funny. So I told you I wrote my honors thesis, right?
Yeah.
Guess what the topic was?
It was on the experience of black student athletes at predominantly white institutions. I asked you to send it to me. You never did.
Oh, I didn't? Oh, my bad, bro. It was. And I talked to people from different sports, mostly the ones, especially the ones like in like cross country or like just sports that aren't really known to have like very many black student athletes in them. And the reoccurring theme was really just like this idea that you have to be like this like this perfect person, or else whatever you do is going to be perceived. That's going to be how they perceive the whole group. So it's like in a classroom, which is why half the time why I'm like scared to ask a question in the classroom, is because I don't speak the way other people in my classroom speak, my counterparts, and I don't, I don't phrase it a certain way. If I ask a question, it's pretty direct, straightforward. It's like super basic English. But everybody around me that asks questions that aren't black, they'll like have some crazy, they'll use some like crazy wordsmithing like stuff. I'm like, what are you saying right now?
Yeah.
And somehow the teacher knows what they're saying, probably because they got their PhD and stuff. But I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna ask a question. But that was like one of the first things I did is like, one, I'm gonna sit in the front of the classroom in every class I have. Two, I'm gonna be extremely proactive in the classroom myself. And if I have a question, even no matter how dumb I think it is, if I don't know it, I'm gonna ask the teacher. That's what the teacher's there for. They want to help you get better, and that's how I was able to succeed in classes too. I didn't care if someone said, "What kind of question is that?" Because more than half the time, and it's happened on multiple occasions, students would come up to me after class saying, "I was thinking the same thing. Thank you for asking that question." And that's why I'm saying like one thing about me is I'm like I discovered and I told myself this: I'm not gonna change who I am for nobody. I don't give a shit. I'm going to. I don't need to walk a certain way, talk a certain way, dress a certain way, look a certain way, whatever, to be able to be successful. That's like what or the idea that that's what defines success. Like I'm gonna create my own success.
At what point did you verbalize that?
I did. I kind of like put that into a sentence or two after I was able to stick to who I am as being true to myself, and not trying to like kind of switch it up a little bit to kind of cater to the environments and see that I was still able to excel and succeed. So once that happened, I'm like, you know what? I'm doing just fine, and I'm not listening to like what society says about, oh, make sure you do this, that, and whatever. Make sure you're talking like this. It's not about the major that defines your success. It's about you taking advantage of what you're doing. Like, what's your purpose behind being in art? What's your purpose behind being in African American studies or communication? My purpose was to get better at speaking so I can excel in my career, because everybody needs to be able to speak. It don't matter how smart you are. If you can't speak or communicate what you're trying to say, you're not going nowhere, because speaking is powerful. And on top of that too, I told you I had a speech problem. I want to be a motivational speaker. Like it's funny enough, I'm over here scared to talk to people or scared to get up in front of people, but now I'm like just finding myself like I got in this position where I feel like I need to be telling people more and encouraging them because of my me being black, being young, where I grew up from, and also starting out where I started from, right? Just and being able to get success from that. I'm like, people need to hear this. They need to like see it from someone they can relate to as well. And so I feel like I'm not doing my due diligence. I'm not doing what God called me to do if I don't do this.
You mentioned that you want to change the narrative. I'm curious, like, what other narratives do you want to change?
Honestly, it's not really about other narratives, but it's like in certain situations, it just brings me back to the idea of that, like, you have to have had this sort of background to excel. So I interned at Amazon Web Services. I was a product marketer. And I didn't know jack nothing. Got in there, but I said, and I felt myself sort of being like, oh, in this environment, it's like one of the best companies. I gotta like be like this. I'm like, and after my second day, I'm like, what am I doing, bro? Like, you got to this because you were being who you were. Don't change it up now because you got in a different environment. So I went back to exactly who I was. They had invited me to a weekly business meeting or whatever, and we had like our general manager in there, our VP in there, like all the higher ups in like on our team for our product marketing team, and they were talking about like our thing called Deep Racer, which is basically a fully autonomous car that's meant to help developers improve their machine learning capabilities. And so they're saying like, oh, you guys need to increase adoption and awareness for like consumers. Like, you guys need to pick it up, get more people to kind of sign up for it. And they had said that after 15 minutes of saying stuff in acronyms that I had no idea what they meant. So I'm sitting there like, everything's going over my head. But once they said that, I said, oh, I recognize that stuff. I know what that means. I said, now I wasn't thinking like, I'm going to just sit here and listen. I was thinking, what can I add to this meeting to add value? And then, so I went on my computer, went to our Deep Racer website. First thing I saw, I was like, okay, looks okay. I see some Caucasian men, I see some Indian men, some Asian men. I said, where are the women at? And in my head, I'm like, okay, they probably already talked about this. It's pretty obvious to me. It sticks out. It's pretty simple. It's like there's no women on this page at all. So I said, you know what? I might just bring it up, whatever. Just maybe they didn't talk about it. Who knows? And there's also like 6 women in there of like the 15, 20. And so they said at the end, like, oh, so does anybody have any last comments or questions they want to say? And I'm like, my heart's beating fast, bro. My heart was beating. I'm like, yeah, sure, speaking up in the classroom is different, but I'm speaking in front of executives, VPs, GMs. I'm like, bro, don't get in over your head. And I was only interned in there too. And I was like, he said, all right, so last time, anybody have any questions? I'm like, you know what? My heart is beating so damn fast. I have to do this. I said, I got a question. I got something to say. They all just looked at me like, like what this intern got to say. And I was like, he talked about increasing adoption and awareness. I just sort of went to the website page and I saw, all these men. I saw no women on the page. And I feel like there's already a stigma behind women being in STEM and in tech in general. And I feel like there's always going to be those women who want to be the standout and be like, I'm going to change that narrative. But to the general like population of women, if they don't see themselves, they're going to say, oh, that's not for me. I'm going to just do something else. They were just looking at me like, damn. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, that was so obvious to me. It shows, too, that people who grew up differently and people in different environments do not see the obvious. That's why you always need people from different backgrounds who have different perspectives. And they told me, the GM, he said, that's a great idea. So you know what we say about people who have ideas? You got to go execute it. So my whole internship changed. So that literally was working on partnering with groups like Girls Who Code, Black Girls Who Code, and like Women in Tech and stuff like that. And that's why I say what my job, it has to be impactful, because once I saw I was able to make, like, I was doing something I actually cared about when I made a point, it didn't matter how much work I had to do, I was willing to do it because I saw the direct impact it would have. So I'm like, bump the money, I need to see the impact. So I'm not going to put my energy into something I don't actually care about. If I care about it, I'll give everything I have. So
what stands out to me about that story, your heart's racing, you take that first risk. You can't swim unless you jump in. You take that first risk to say, where are these women at? But you don't just stop there, because you could just easily ask that, pointed out a fault, and moved on. But you said, where are these women at? This is why that's a problem. Here's what the solution should look like. Here's some ideas to reach that solution.
Yeah, bro.
In like few minutes. People would present stuff like that, spend weeks planning it, where are the tweaks at here and there. You just full sent it in a room of superiors as an intern. Yeah. So you're young and have no business being in the room to begin with, let alone talking, contributing. That's why I wanted to record this podcast with you. And that's what stood out to me when I met you, was right off the bat, you're like, this is the problem. We got to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's so incredible. What made you stay, not only through that next year, stay not at UW, but stay playing football? Because you could have just been a student or not gone to practice and continued having a scholarship in some sense. But what made you continue being on the team? Because if you're on the team, you still got to, I know this, but you still got to show up to practice. Yep. You got to still show up to live. You got to show up every day, 3 times a day to your sport. And you played one down.
Yep.
That's crazy, man. It's really similar to me, honestly. Like I've not been played that much in my sport. Yeah. Not as hyper competitive as football, but what's motivated you to keep showing up in your sport?
Instead of looking at it as, and the thing is that's crazy, my senior season before I tore my ACL, that was the best I performed in like my last 2 years, because I was doing pretty good my junior year, but the difference I noticed was I didn't expect anything just because I was doing good. And you can't expect something to happen. So you can't be like, okay, I'm waking up early, studying film, doing all this stuff, extra work, even though I'm tired, working hard, do whatever, and be like, okay, I deserve for this to happen. That's not how life works. You do it, but you don't expect it may or may not happen, but it's the fact that it happened, that you did it, and that's all that matters. And this is why I say everything comes full circle. It may not happen, the thing that you want may not happen there, but it'll come down later down the line and something you may not have even thought about. So people see this, and just because I'm not doing the stereotypical thing where I'm balling out, got all these accolades, that does not mean I'm not a student athlete. That doesn't mean I don't have value or that I add value or don't add value. It's just you can't listen, you can't look at things of what society has, what traditions are. If something hasn't happened, be the one that makes it happen. So like for me on my LinkedIn, my thing says my whole like headline is like dedicated to exceeding expectations and breaking barriers. So if something hasn't happened, I'm gonna go do it. If someone has this perceived expectation of what I can or can't do, I'm not only gonna prove them wrong to that, but I'm gonna do better than what they even thought I could do. Right? So that's just how I carry myself, and it all comes down to mindset, dude. So
what I love about that, man, you've transcended sport. You're more than an athlete.
Yeah.
Your identity, your self-worth doesn't come from sport anymore. That's what I love about STAC. That's what I love about athletes. You said coaches don't got your back. Athletes do.
Yeah.
For me, Pac-12 STAC, my sophomore year, met athletes for the first time in my life from different sports at different schools.
Mm-hmm.
And here's some All-Americans like supporting me, saying I got this and that I have worth and value. That's what athletes can do for each other. And the biggest shame to me is that athletes don't talk to each other enough from different sports on campus and
True.
from campus to campus.
Yep.
That's the biggest problem to me, man.
Yep.
But I think that's a great place for us to end it. Thank you
Okay.
so much, man. This was phenomenal.
No problem, Andrew. Got you, Brody.
What's your LinkedIn?
My LinkedIn. Michael, just look up Michael Neal and then type in like UW because there's too many Michael Neals on LinkedIn apparently.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man.
Appreciate you.